Good morning, friends of Riverbend United Church, and welcome to this service of worship for Sunday, June 6th. I'm glad you are tuning in wherever you are. Thanks for being here for worship. This morning we have a lot going on, and we want to say a special word of welcome to Joel Fleck, our youth coordinator of 3 years, who will share with us this morning the reflection, and we bid him farewell at the end of June as he goes on to the next chapter in his life. So stay tuned to hear from Joel Fleck in a bit. We also have these fantastic new doors to our church, new front doors and a new side door. They are motion censored, so you wave your hand over a button and they magically open. Our gratitude goes to Jake Enns for the gift of these doors to the church in memory of dear Marilyn Enns, who passed earlier this year. Thank you for the lasting gift to the church, Jake, in her memory. This morning we offer a formal land acknowledgement, given what has arisen in the news in this week. And so please join me in acknowledging in your heart. The people of Riverbend United Church acknowledge that we are located on Treaty 6 territory, and we respect the histories, the languages, and the cultures of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all First Peoples of Canada, whose presence continues to enrich our vibrant community. I know all our hearts are heavy with the news that has come out of Kamloops Indian Residential School. And I invite us into a time of acknowledging our part in our history and in seeking ways to walk upon these lands with more peace and hope and love. Let's share in these moments in memoriam.
Walking a path of peace. I am walking a path of peace. I am walking a path of peace. Lead me home. Lead me home. I am walking a path of love. I am walking a path of love. I am walking a path of love. Lead me home. Lead me home. I am walking a path of grace. I am walking a path of grace. I am walking a path of grace. Lead me home. Lead me home. I am walking a path of hope. I am walking a path of hope. I am walking a path of hope. Lead me home. Lead me home.
Good morning. My name is Christine Enns, and I'm happy to join you this morning. Please join me in the invitation to worship, the first portion taken from Psalm 145. All creation shall give thanks to you, O Lord, and all your faithful shall bless you. They shall make known the glorious splendor of your kingdom. Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and your realm endures throughout all generations. We gather to give thanks, to recognize the splendor of love, to acknowledge where we lose hope, and to put our trust newly in the God of life, who brings light through the dark, joy in the dawn. Please join me in our opening hymn, Joy Comes with the Dawn.
Joy comes with the dawn, joy comes with the morning sun, joy springs from the dew and scatters the night with her song. Joy comes with the dawn. Weeping may come, weeping may come in the night when dark shadows cloud our sight. Joy comes with the dawn, joy comes with the morning sun, joy springs from the dew and scatters the night with her song. Joy comes with the dawn. Sorrow will turn into song, and God's laughter makes us strong. Joy comes with the dawn, joy comes with the morning sun, joy springs from the dew and scatters the night with her song. Joy comes with the dawn. We will rejoice, we will rejoice and give praise to the one who brings us grace. Joy comes with the dawn, joy comes with the morning sun, joy springs from the dew and scatters the night with a song. Joy comes with the dawn.
Three.
Good morning, everybody. If your children aren't with you now, please grab them for a special children's story.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Children's Time. Congratulations to the graduates this week. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
And Joel, you are truly going to be missed. You do so much for the church, and everybody loves you. We're missing out. But congratulations on moving on and with your career and finishing your school. Holy cow, what a mission. So, speaking of missions, Miss Adelaide came home on Monday with this beautifully made dream catcher and talked to me about what she learned at school. She learned about residential school and the impacts it had on a lot of people. So she asked me to talk to her about it. I know quite a bit about residential schools and the impact. However, I wasn't sure how to talk to children about it. So I did some research online and found many, many resources, which I'm going to have posted, and you must have gotten on the email on Friday, with how to talk to your children and resources about different books and things that you can read to your children and keep you knowledgeable for questions that they might ask. But I found this book, and it's called Stolen Words, and I thought it was a perfect example of how to explain to a 5-year-old the impact of residential school on somebody's culture. So I'm going to share that book with you today. It's called Stolen Words by Melanie Florence. It's beautifully written and beautifully illustrated. So I hope you enjoy it as much as we did. She came home from school today, skipping and dancing, humming a song under her breath, clutching a dream catcher she had made from odds and ends, bits of string, plastic beads, and brightfully colored feathers. Her glossy braids danced against her shoulders, swaying with her, black as ravens' wings. "Grandpa," she asked, clutching his hand, spinning under his arm before dropping it again. "How do you say grandfather in Cree?" He stopped breathing for a moment. A lifetime to a 7-year-old. He looked down at her sadly. "I don't remember," he answered. "I lost my words a long time ago." A frown clouded her face. "How do you lose words, Grandpa?" she asked. "They took them away," he answered. She thought for a moment. "Where did they take them?" she asked. "Where they took all of us," he said. "Away from our home. Away from laughter and soft words. Away from our mothers who cried for us." She reached for his gnarled hand. "Who took you away, Grandpa?" she asked quietly. "Men and women dressed in black. Talking to us with words we didn't know," he answered. They reached home and sat on the stairs together. "Where did they take you, Grandpa?" she asked. "Away to a school that was cold and lonely, where angry white faces raised their voices in their hands. They took our words and locked them away, punished us until we forgot them, until we sounded like them." Harsh, sharp words, so different from the sound of our beautiful one, tried to wipe the sadness away with her soft hands as she touched his weathered face. She looked down at her lap and handed him the dream catcher that she had made in her room. "You take this, Grandpa," she said. "Maybe it will help you find your words again." He smiled at her. His granddaughter, and touched her innocent face, a face that had never known hard words or raised hands. He smiled and kissed her head. The next day, she skipped out of the school again, smiling widely at her grandfather. She stopped in front of him and took a deep breath. "Tanisi, Nimosum," she said. His eyes widened. She smiled brighter than the sun. "I found your words, Grandpa," she said. She pulled a tattered, well-worn paperback out of her book bag. "Introduction to Cree," it said. "My teacher helped me find this for you at the library." He reached for it, his hand shaking, opened it, feeling the soft, much-loved pages under his fingers. "Nusisim," he whispered. Granddaughter. The word felt familiar in his mouth. It felt like his home, his mother. He turned the pages of the book carefully. Mesinahikin. Book. He turned another, word after word. 𝘑𝘰𝘶𝑗𝘊𝘆. Language. His words. Pages and pages of them. He looked at his granddaughter, his new system. Thank you, 𝘑𝘰𝘶, he said. Will you read this to me? She asked, taking his hand in hers and leading him home. Will you teach me your words? His heart danced as he nodded, holding the book against his chest. And that's the final picture. And here it lists the English translation and pronunciation of the Cree words found in this story. I tried my best, but sometimes your best isn't perfect. But I hope you guys enjoyed this book as much as we loved it. Have a great week, you guys.
Bye.
See you later.
Thank you to Crystal for giving parents some ideas for how to talk with children about this painful and complex matter. There are more ideas on the church website. For adults and youth, we have a group in the church who is focused on learning about the truth and reconciliation process. You can contact Jill Spanner or the church office for more information on that. We turn now to recognizing our graduates. We have two this morning who are in this important threshold of their lives. First, Craig Miller, who writes this in his beautifully minimalist way. My name's Craig Miller, and I've just graduated from University of Alberta with a Bachelor of Science in Computing Science. I've been coming to Riverbend United Church since I was 4, attending both Sunday school and youth group. I currently help out with the audio-visual for the Sunday worship services. I'm on the job hunt, hoping to work with databases. Craig, we congratulate you on finishing university in such a difficult year as this, and we wish you the best in your job hunt. And thank you for all your help with AV this year. Our second graduate is Griffin Power, graduating from high school. Griffin was baptized at the Riverbend United Church on a very warm Mother's Day in 2003. I don't know that he remembers that, but his mom does. Since that time, he attended church almost weekly with his mother, Dawn Power, while he was growing up, and he was an active member of Sunday school. Griffin attended Camp 𝘂𝘂𝑃𝑡𝑢𝑛 during the summer months and was a member of youth group. He was confirmed in the church in 2017 and has fond memories of sleepovers, church sleepovers, late-night food feasts, and youth cantatas. Griffin is a product of his neighborhood. He attended Earl Buxton Elementary School, Riverbend Junior High, and he will be graduating from Lillian Osborne High School this month. Griffin is also an active Army reservist with the Loyal Edmonton Regiment. He's currently unsure what his future holds in regards to academia, but he's sure it will not be done behind a desk. He's thinking either firefighting and or auto technology. His mother, Dawn, wishes that he follows his heart, but also hopes he can make a living doing so. Dawn says, "It absolutely takes a village to raise a child. Riverbend United Church is a huge part of that village that helped raise Griffin, and for that, Griffin and I are truly thankful." Congratulations, Griffin. Your church is here for you as you move into the next, whatever that looks like for you. To both of you and to all our other grads of our community, may wisdom lead your life and light your way. Joel Fleck and Doug Spanner have a song about that, about wisdom, for us now. It comes from the More Voices hymnal, number 63. It's called Wisdom, My Road, also called Long Before My Journeys Start.
Long before my journey start, when in my youth I searched in my heart, I would pray for her, wait for her. Wisdom, my road, my goal, and my star. From the blossom to the sea, long has she filled my cup in me. May I cling to her vine, taste of her wine. Wisdom, my life, my perfect design. When I stretched my hands to the sky, when in despair my soul raised a cry, I was saved by her gaze, led in her ways. Wisdom, I love, the light of my days.
Hey everyone, it's me, Joel. I apologize for the poor lighting quality. The only time I found to record this was late at night. We'll just pretend it's Sunday morning though. The beauty of pre-recorded worship services. As some of you might already know, I'm stepping down from my position as youth coordinator in June. I've been a member of this congregation now for over 20 years, and I just wanted to say that it's been an absolute pleasure to give back to the community that's given so much to me over all these years. Running the youth program here wasn't always easy, but the memories and experiences that came with it were more than enough to make it all worth it. Unfortunately, all good things come to an end, and it's time for me to begin a new chapter in my life. I'd like to thank everyone who have supported me along the way, and I'd also like to thank all the youth that made this position so rewarding. When I started planning for this reflection, I thought a good place to start would just go over all the things I've learned during my time as youth leader. But it seems now I have more questions about faith, church, and religion than when I started. It's hard to believe that it's been 3 years since I've been the youth coordinator, and half that time has been spent delivering it through a computer screen. Living through this pandemic has ultimately made me more confused on a spiritual level. I'd like to rewind to January of this year. This was a time when things seemed to be most bleak and miserable. I'd already finished my first semester of online university courses. With cautious optimism, I figured that I was halfway through what I hoped would be the last of remote learning. A typical day for me during this month was waking up every morning at 7:30. It's still dark as night outside. The coffee machine is only a few steps away from the bed, so I don't have to work hard to start the morning. 7:45, I read the news. How many cases today? Fewer than yesterday. That's good, I suppose. At 8, I sign on to the Zoom call. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, it's math. Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's physics. 3 hours every morning with a short break in between for another cup of coffee. At some point, I go for a run. After sitting in a chair for hours at a time, I just need something to get my body moving. Despite the cold, though, it's well worth it. For the rest of the day, it's studying or finishing assignments. Weekends didn't even feel any different from the weekdays, though. The whole week kind of just melted into a homogeneous slog of computer screens and bitter cold. Experts say that January is the most miserable month of the year, and I was certainly feeling it. This year, though, January happened to be the start of the shortened NHL season, which meant that after a few months of no hockey, the Oilers would be playing again. Game days gave me something to look forward to. When the first game of the season rolled around, I was ecstatic. It didn't even bother me that they lost 5-2 to Vancouver. I was just overjoyed to see them playing again. For the first 3 months of the year, I must have watched every single game in its entirety. I don't think I've ever been more invested in them than I was this year. We all know how this story goes. Us Oilers fans are all too familiar with being disappointed. First round of the playoff comes around, and not only do the Oilers lose the series against the Jets, they fail to win a single game. The disappointment all culminates in a triple overtime defeat in Game 4. Now, you're probably wondering how being a hockey fan and spirituality are related. When I think back to life before the pandemic, it seemed like I had everything figured out. I was passionate about what I was studying in school. I had a group of friends that I saw regularly. I had several career paths lined up ahead of me. I had big plans to go study abroad. Everything seemed to be falling into place. But sometimes, like the Oilers, life doesn't play out the way we expect it to. All of you know how this story goes. As the pandemic went on, I saw my great plans start to fall apart, started to disconnect with some of my longtime friends. Routines went out the window. I found myself just trying to get through each day. Instead of taking each moment as it comes, it seems like I was just looking forward, waiting for when I could go back to school, waiting to be able to play sports, waiting to be able to see my friends and family again. As I've come to learn, living through times of adversity is an inevitable reality. I often fall into the trap of feeling sorry for myself, or thinking that the universe is out to get me. This isn't really anything new, though. We're all too familiar with saying, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." I always found this saying to be sort of silly and contrived, though. Coming out of this pandemic, I don't know if I feel all that much stronger, especially with gyms having been closed for so long. If anything, this pandemic has made me more vulnerable. It stripped away the false sense of bravado and overconfidence that I carried around before, and it's forced me to contemplate. It's during times of adversity where we discover what's most important to us. Without living through bad times, there's no frame of reference to good times. Seeing my family and friends was always just a part of my pre-pandemic life. Fast forward to now, and it's been over 2 years since I've seen my sister, and over a year since I've seen my grandparents. It's only now that I realize how much seeing them regularly meant to me. I feel guilty for taking those parts of my life for granted before, which at the time just seemed to be an inseparable part of everyday life. Going forward, though, I'll be sure to cherish every single moment I spend with my friends and family. Every moment I spend surrounded by classmates or coworkers. Every Sunday spent with all of you at church. I'll probably think twice next time I have to decide between staying home watching TV and going out to connect with others or experience the outdoors. Hopefully, with the situation starting to improve, it finally looks like we're nearing the end. And while that's exciting, the thought of jumping right back into our pre-COVID lives might seem daunting. If there's one thing I want you to take away from my reflection, it's not to forget everything we've learned throughout this pandemic. These last 15 months have been completely unprecedented. It's been a roller coaster of emotion as we found different and creative ways to cope with the situation. I ask that each one of you thinks of a way that you were able to find purpose or meaning during these troubling times, whether through music, friendships, community, maybe even a new hobby. Perhaps these last few months gave you a newfound appreciation for something that you might not have realized before. I know that in my case, these last few months have made me realize just how much I yearn for connection with others. I feed off the energy of other people's presence, and it took being pretty much isolated for me to realize it. Before I close, I'd like to ask each one of you to think back over the last 15 months. Way back to March last year, when our worlds got flipped upside down. How did you find meaning during your darkest or loneliest times? What parts of your life before COVID did you realize you couldn't live without? Going forward, I'd ask that everyone remember the lessons we've learned during this time, because it's during times of adversity where we learn the most about ourselves, our needs, our desires, what fulfills us. Because just when the Oilers win the Stanley Cup, all the years of disappointment and letdown will make it all that much more rewarding. I'd like to close with one of my favorite songs called Constellations by Jack Johnson. It's one of my favorite songs to play on guitar, and something about it always seems to remind me of summer. I'd like to thank everyone that's made my time as youth coordinator unforgettable, and I hope that I'll be able to see all of you in person in the near future.
Light was leaving in the west, it was blue. The children's laughter sang and skipping just like the stones that they threw. Their voices echoed across the way. It's getting late, and it was just another night with a sunset and a moonrise not so far behind to give us just enough light to lay down underneath the stars. Listen to all the translations of the stories across the sky. We drew our own constellations. West winds often last too long, but when they come down, nothing ever feels the same. Sheltered under the 𝘂𝘠𝘠 tree, waiting for the passing rain. Clouds keep moving to uncover the sea. Stars above us, chasing the day away to find the stories that we sometimes need. Listen close enough, all else fades away. And it was just another night with a sunset and a moonrise not so far behind to give us just enough light to lay down underneath the stars. Listen to all the translations of the stories across the sky to do our own constellations.
Good morning. My name is Christine Enns, and I'm here as chair of the Spiritual Formation Committee. Our congregation, and in particular the youth of Riverbend United Church, have been blessed with the leadership of Joel Fleck over the past 3 years. Joel has chosen to step down from the role at the end of June to focus on his studies, but he'll continue to be in our midst and our music. Joel transitioned quickly from an active youth participant to the leader of our youth ministry program. Like his predecessors, Joel developed some important youth leadership skills, like calculating just how many pancakes might be consumed by an unknown number of church members on a given Shrove Tuesday, and how to encourage youth to regularly check their email for upcoming events. Rather than always working just for the Riverbend youth, Joel encouraged participation with other youth groups and coordinated several successful joint events with other churches. As youth coordinator, Joel executed a number of the historic youth activities, including biblical cake decorating and the ensuing auctions, fall visits to the corn maze, and retreat. Joel also planned and led a number of worship services, including his epic mountaintop service that he recorded about this time last year. Just when Joel may have thought he had the role figured out, COVID lockdowns threw things for a loop, and he developed brand new activities for the group as he continued to plan events that were held virtually. I'm not sure how multiple youth made brownies in their respective kitchens while all connecting online, but I hear that they had a riot doing it. The youth will miss Joel and all his enthusiasm, creativity, and humor. Thank you for your dedication, Joel, and we wish you the very best.
So we are sharing this morning for our Faces of Faith segment with Marv Severson and Christine Enns. I'm very delighted to have both of you share with us. If you could just tell us a little bit about your connection to the church and what kinds of things you have been doing for it, because I know you do a lot.
Well, I'm older, so maybe I'll go first. I'm Marv. I grew up in the Lutheran church. My father was a Lutheran minister, and so that was my background. And then when I became an adult, I kind of drifted, as many people do once they become young adults. And the Lutheran church was a little bit too strict for my views, I found. And so when I met Christine, and she had a background in the United Church, it seemed a little bit more to fit my way of thinking. So we started going to St. Paul's United, and we had some classes there, and got to know the minister, got married there. Both Ben and Emily were baptized there, but then we moved to Riverbend, and we realized we were driving right by Riverbend United on the way to St. Paul's. I was going, is that really what we should be doing? So I don't know, 15 years ago or so, we switched to St. Paul's.
To Riverbend. And it made sense certainly at the time because the kids were going to the community school and they were playing community sports, and it was our hope that some of those people that are on the hockey team might also be at church, and coincidentally that actually happened. So anyway, that was a really great move for us. I think it was a really good thing. And then I guess with that, I initially started to get involved, and then sort of Marv followed along.
Yeah, well, Christine was always the volunteer. She volunteered for everything, and I tended to do that less so. But I started getting involved in the music mainly because I enjoyed it. So playing in the ensemble and with Ben and Emily and the rest was fun. And then eventually Paul talked me to join the choir. And
Paul
so
Fung?
that was good.
Oh, Paula.
So Paul Fung.
Yeah.
Oh, Paul Fung. Okay.
Yeah, he worked. He was pretty good at convincing people to join. And but so that was more. I wasn't really like that was kind of easy stuff to do. So then when I realized that the board, they were having a hard time finding a new board chair, and I thought, well, that would be more giving back, doing something that isn't as much fun as playing in the ensemble. So I decided I would take a turn as board chair. Meanwhile, Christine's been volunteering the entire time.
Well, and Marv said when he took his role as board chair, he said, well, I have an in-house consultant, because I was also board chair for a couple of years, a little while ago. And,
very handy.
And currently serve as chair of the Spiritual Formation Committee and one of the members of the Turkey team, which is, as Jill mentioned in her talk, it's not really a team. It's sort of what does she call it? It's I can't remember her word.
Movement.
A movement. Yes, that's it. Thank you. It's a movement. And it's actually been a great way to connect with a wide variety of people on some really interesting projects. Mainly, our goal would be to build community through food. And that started with the turkey dinner, but it's also morphed into some really great community connections with the formerly Brander Gardens ROCs, but now Riverbend ROCs community group supporting the subsidized housing development across from Riverbend Junior High.
Well, I know we're all grateful for both of you giving so much in your leadership and just sharing your presence and your gifts. And Marv, as an aside, thank you for stepping into board chair. This is your second year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And so I'm wondering, because you do both give so much time and energy to the church and in your volunteering and leadership positions, why do you give so much? What is it that inspires you to do that for the church?
Well, again, I guess for me, seeing my parents give so much their whole lives, like they were, well, I mean, my dad was a minister, but in a way that sort of pushed me away initially. Like I sort of didn't want to do that much, and so then when Christine and I got married, she was kind of the same thing, doing lots of giving, and I kind of just eased into it, like I said, with starting with the more fun things, the music, and then. Just kind of feeling like it needs to be more of a two-way street, like that I needed to help out a little bit more. So that's when I joined the board.
Yeah, and I also had that role modeling from my mom and my dad. My dad had been very involved in Rotary, giving back to the community that way. And it seemed like all of my activities that since I became a homeowner and in the community and became a parent of kids in school, and all of those things, all those activities seemed to be around building community. And I sort of took stock of where I was spending all my efforts. And now that the kids aren't at a school that I need to volunteer at anymore, or there's no playgrounds I don't need to build right now, it seemed like the church was really where I wanted to spend my my time, and not to take a book out or a page out of what Joanne said last week, but I also really appreciate the intergenerational community that we have in the church, because we don't really have that elsewhere in our lives. And the fact that, you know, Emily and Ben grew up in this community of so many people that really love them and only want the very best for them. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm getting a little teary about it all. But they, you know, I just really appreciated that, and the love and support that I've felt during difficult times, like the passing of my mom in January. The support of the church has been fantastic. So that's also a great reason to give back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know you speaking of Ben and Emily, you both have some kind of news recently.
Well, we have a fantastic new joy in our lives, and that's our granddaughter Liliana Lynn, born to our son Ben and his lovely wife Shelley 2 weeks ago on Tuesday, May the 18th, I think it was. I should know that date off by heart.
Right. Well, congratulations on that. And
thank you.
And I'm glad that you have felt supported by the church in difficult times, like your mom's passing. And speaking of this difficult times, Joel today is addressing how we live through adversity. And so, you know, you just named one thing, that the church's support, but I wonder how you two have stayed positive during this difficult year of COVID. Is there anything in particular that has helped you through this time that could be seen as a time of adversity?
Well, I was thinking about that. You'd mentioned that this was a question you were going to ask, and I was remembering that when everything shut down initially back in March of last year, oh so long ago, that we had just begun our Lenten walking. So the church had initiated the Lenten walking program again, and the goal was to walk every day. And so because I was now not going to the university for my work, and I wasn't able to see, you know, the rest of my family, I went out in nature every day for that Lenten walking. And I really tried to, well, I didn't really have to try. I really yearned to continue that, being in nature, being outside, getting that fresh air every day throughout this whole time. And I've been putting on a lot of steps, as my step counter has been telling me. Good. And that, I think, has really made a huge difference. I guess some people could call it forest bathing. We're lucky enough to live very close to the river valley, and so right away you can be right in the trees and in the beauty and solace of nature, and I think that has really helped me.
Beautiful.
Yeah, for me, I was very fortunate in that I didn't really feel I had nearly as much adversity as most people. I already worked from home. My job didn't change. Christine stayed employed, but Ben and Emily both, and Shelley all stayed employed. You know, really could have been a lot worse, but still, I mean, we did get COVID, although again, mine was really mild. So, but I find I tend to be an eternal optimist, and so I think that's what helped. Like when you'd hear stories about there's never going to be a vaccine, and then someone else would say, yeah, there's going to be a vaccine, I would tend to believe. I'd read the article about, yeah, there's going to be a vaccine, and kind of shut out the negative news. And I think that's kind of how I coped.
That sounds kind of like being able to direct your own attitude. You can choose how to view something, glass half full, half empty, sort of.
Easier said than done sometimes, but yeah,
True.
I do try to do that.
Okay, good. Well, I want to say thank you both for sharing with us. It's lovely to connect with you and share in this conversation and get to know you all better. So thank you for that.
Thank you for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed listening to the others, and I look forward to whoever else you might be speaking to next.
Yeah, we're starting with board members over the summer, and then we'll move on. I mean, if we can figure out how to keep doing this once we're live, we'll move on to hearing from others in the congregation.
That's great.
Thank you very much. And I think we'll carry on with our worship.
Sure,
Christine?
we'll carry on with the prayers of the people. God of life, through adversity, you are with us. You don't promise us an easy life. You promise your eternal love. In this week, as many walk through thresholds into something new, we are reminded that you call us to step into newness each day. We feel the heartbreak of tragedies committed in our history, lands and languages stolen, lives torn apart, violated, lost. Forgive us, we pray. Let your truth melt our hardened hearts. Grant us courage to open our eyes and change our course. Lead us to walk newly in your way, where every life is seen as sacred, where we listen to love even when inconvenient, and where we respond with our hearts and our lives in each new moment, letting you usher in a new heaven and a new earth. By your grace, may it be so. Amen. And please join me in our final hymn, I See a New Heaven.
To
Thank you for choosing to worship with us today. It was a rich service. Thanks to Joel for everything he's done over these years, and to Crystal and her wisdom offered to parents and children, and to all the leaders behind the scenes who make these worship services possible. Let's go out with the words of the prophet Isaiah. May we go out in joy and be led forth in peace, and the mountains and the hills before us shall burst into song, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. Go in peace, friends. Amen.